Hey everyone, I went into the new film Tony knowing surprisingly little about Anthony Bourdain and his life. I knew who he was, of course, but I hadn't read Kitchen Confidential, and I wasn't someone who had followed his career closely. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to get out of a movie about one summer in his life when he was about 19 years old. And what I didn't know was that the summer was going to take place on Cape Cod. And that changed the way I experienced this whole film immediately. It kind of made it so much more fun for me because I live in Massachusetts, Cape Cod's Massachusetts, so it's kind of a local fun bit. Tony begins with young Anthony Bourdain, who thinks he's going to be a writer. He's in college, he's applied for a writing fellowship, and he's convinced he's going to get it. When that falls apart, he can't bring himself to admit it. Instead, he heads to Cape Cod chasing this girl, Nancy, played by Emilia Jones, and he finds himself stranded in this strange little summer world where he eventually stumbles into a job washing dishes and prepping for Chef, played by Antonio Banderas. Having lived in the Cape and the islands area of Massachusetts, there was something about this movie that felt incredibly familiar to me. These vacation communities develop their own culture during summer and even in the off season. You have tourists, wealthy vacationers, but yeah, you also have college kids and seasonal workers who come to make money, work incredibly hard, stay out too late, and they drink too much, they party too much, and they get up the next morning and then they do it all over again. There's a looseness to life that can feel completely disconnected from the world you left behind. Some people spend a summer there and then leave when it's over. Some people never do. They just stay because they love it. And that's really where Tony found me. Because Tony doesn't arrive on Cape Cod looking to change his life. He's chasing a girl. He doesn't even really know who he is yet. He's constantly trying to convince everyone around him that he's more successful, more experienced, more interesting, and more certain of himself than he actually is. Then Chef gives him something that he wasn't expecting. He gives him a chance to be good at something. Tony starts at the bottom washing dishes, learning the rules of the kitchen, and gradually taking pride in the work. What stayed with me, though, with this film is that Tony thinks he's simply having a disastrous summer after the future he planned for himself just falls apart. He doesn't know yet that he's having one of those experiences that will change everything about his life, everything that comes afterward. And I think most of us have something like that somewhere in our own lives, somewhere in our past. A summer, a job, a relationship, a friendship, maybe even a failure that put another possibility in front of us. That's what we get here with this film, Tony. We just didn't necessarily know when we were experiencing it, just like Tony doesn't know when he's experiencing it, that these things are happening and unwinding. So, what was that experience for you? That's what I would love to know. Did you have a summer experience that changed everything or a job that just transformed the way you think about the world? Dominic Sessa is really good at letting that change happen without suddenly turning Tony into Anthony Bourdain as we recognize him. And he does a great job with this role. He's kind of reckless, he's kind of insecure, he's still lying and making terrible decisions and doing all these things. And it's just such a compelling young character to watch on screen. And underneath all of that, you start seeing curiosity and competence and eventually confidence. Antonio Banderas is terrific. He's a great actor. And because Chef doesn't need to give Tony some giant speech about his potential, it all feels so much more authentic. He expects this kid to work. He gives him a chance. He corrects him when he's wrong. He recognizes when he's doing a good job and he lets him know. Tony spends so much time in this movie trying to get people to admire the person he's pretending to be. While Chef, he gradually begins respecting him for the person he is actually becoming. And that is so important. Nancy and Sal's played by Leo Woodall, who also does a great job here. Nancy and Sal reflect other possibilities that, could represent Tony's life, depending on which choices he makes. Nancy represents this person Tony desperately wants to impress and is kind of crushing on, while Sal represents this seductive side of summer culture. He's charismatic, he's handsome, he's reckless, and he's fun. But you also begin seeing where that life can take you when it's unregulated, when it's just no holds barred all the time, every day. That's what makes this such an effective coming of age story. The cape doesn't magically transform Tony. It gives him choices. The movie itself moves at what I would call summertime slow. And that's something that you would recognize if you've ever spent time in a vacation destination. This isn't an action driven movie. And character really is story in this case. The cinematography is often surprisingly kind of close and intimate in this film, particularly in those crowded kitchen scenes. While there are these occasional wider shots of beaches and dunes and boats and ocean to remind you of this beautiful little world that surrounds these and envelops these characters. It's really kind of a great mix when you look at how the cinematography really comes together here. For me, Tony is absolutely a ticket worthy movie. Yeah, it felt like kind of a return to summertime for someone who's lived in a place like this. And I should give you just a quick caveat that you need to know before getting into this film. If you don't like some of these slower character driven movies, if you like more of a, action film, this might not be the film for you. If you enjoy character driven stories, though, coming of age films, kitchen culture, or movies about people just trying to figure out what they're doing next, what they're going to do with their lives, I think there's a lot here that you'll actually enjoy and maybe even love. I would love to talk to you about summer culture or those transformative moments. And hey, if you are curious about the Cape or the islands, let me know. If you've been there, let me know. Let's talk about it. And hey, if you enjoyed this review, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And let me know what you thought of Tony. That's it for now, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see y'all again soon. Bye for now.